Petworking is presented by Maya Strategy Group, a leading market research and strategy consulting firm, helping clients in the pet care and animal health industries navigate strategic challenges for almost 2 decades.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Petworking. I'm Peter Kenseth, Vice President and Partner at Maya Strategy Group, and I am thrilled to welcome back an early guest to the show today. We have Jeffrey Bishop-Hill, SVP of Marketplace at Rue. Jeff was my guest for the second or third episode of the show, and thrilled to have him back. Rue is continuing to grow. I had a chance to check in with Rue's CEO, Danny Leffel, at Western Vet, and we talked a little bit and recorded a short clip. And we teased in that clip that we would be bringing Rue back onto the show. And so I'm really excited to have Jeff here today to check in, learn a little bit more about Rue's growth over the past year plus, 2 years, actually.
Yeah,
we've been around 2 years. Good for us. And talk about some of the trends that they're seeing in the vet marketplace. And we're going to close the episode with teeing up a big announcement here from Petworking coming this fall. So without further ado, I'll kick it over to Jeff and welcome him to the show. Jeff, it's great to have you back. Good to see you. And welcome to Petworking.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it, especially after the first time I was here. My gosh.
Yeah, you did great. You did great. So Danny said, you guys did 5,000 vets worked a shift en route last year. How does that compare to, what's the year over year growth? It seems like you guys, are really taking off. You're expanding into new areas. You're doing full-time placements for vets in addition to just relief staffing. Give us a rundown on all the highlights, all things.
Of course.
Since the last time we talked.
Of course, yeah, we're still growing like a weed, which has been an incredible experience, and that growth is kind of coming in a few different areas this year than it was prior, which is also exciting. So that is, you mentioned it. We've done some sort of geographic growth, and we'll actually be rounding that out this year in the United States. We'll basically be in every major market. So that's going to kind of come to a close in terms of our previous geo growth strategy. And then we'll just kind of work on, penetration versus expansion. And then some other new kind of interesting ways that we've seen growth this year have been definitely with permanent placements. And just for clarity, that's when a practice manager will establish a really great relationship with a Rue relief vet or tech, and then want them to join their team full time. And so we try to make that seamless and help with sort of that whole process. And that's really grown significantly, and we're investing a lot in that area, which is exciting. And then the other piece that's kind of interesting is shorter shifts. So we call these, they're basically 4-hour versus 8-hour shifts, and they can be used for strategic growth within a practice. Lots of times, I think hospitals are learning sort of how to be super strategic about the way that they deploy relief, because it is not inexpensive, right? And one of the ways that they're doing so is with shorter shifts on their really busy days. And so we're seeing a lot of growth in that area as well. So exciting stuff.
Awesome. Again, I think it's so cool what you guys do, because, we know how much of an issue veterinary burnout is. And, you guys provide an outlet for it on both sides of the equation, both in terms of giving vets that may not want to be tied to a clinic an option to kind of go and work remotely and pick shifts up as they need, in different areas of the country, let them travel, not be tied down. Gives vets an option if they need to earn some extra income to pick up some extra shifts outside of their regular practice. And for vets that are in a practice that's experiencing high demand for service, that, like you said, that's where the relief comes in, so you're not there stretched out, back to back to back, patient to patient to patient, trying to write your notes and follow up with pet parents and things like that. I think having that, knowing that there's somebody there in the wings is just so critically important. And I thought it was really cool, and Danny pointed out to me when we talked at WVC. A lot of platforms, your competitors, do not allow hospitals to make hires of their relief vets. And to me, I think that it's so smart that you guys capitalized on that, because what better, it's like an internship. What better way to figure out
Yeah,
if a
exactly.
hospital is a good fit for you, and if that vet is a good fit for your hospital, than to have them work there on a temp,
Yes.
relief basis. It's like an internship.
Yeah,
Um,
you need to, I think like one of the, challenges with hiring in general is generally speaking, you go through an onerous interview process, and that person that you're interviewing is sort of on their best behavior, so to speak. And so this is a far more organic way to find somebody who matches the pace, the culture, the client communications area of your specific hospital. So it's a really nice way to learn about that person that you want to bring on full time, the try before you buy, essentially. And it works really well. People do love it. We're actually working on some new tools for hospitals to make that process easier on the back end. And like I said, we're devoting a lot of time and effort to this to make that transition super smooth for everybody who's involved.
Geographically, I mean, where are you guys? Where are the focused expansion areas? Where are you guys?
Yeah,
Not right now
yeah.
that
Where
you're
are we
going to
not?
be
Yeah,
by the end
exactly.
of 2025.
Yeah, we are rounding out all the major markets in the U.S. as I said, and so our last couple major cities that we're not in would be we're kind of rounding out the Midwest. So Detroit, we're working on as we speak. We just wrapped up some other East Coast cities as well. So Virginia Beach, kind of Richmond area, just rounding out the entire state of Virginia. And we also recently opened up all of the markets in Ohio, and that was a fantastic market, really great reception there. And then we're also kind of filling in gaps in like I would say like kind of secondary or tertiary cities throughout the country. And the way that we're deciding kind of where to go in those situations is actually based on our clients' needs. So we've been working closely with some of our larger clients to kind of figure out where they need relief, and then we'll partner up with them to go in there and either open up new hospitals for them or fill in some places where they're struggling to find great talent. So that's kind of how it's working. But yeah, after let's see here, it's basically July, so by September or so, we should pretty much be wrapped up with our expansion.
Say you're opening new hospitals, but are these Rue staff hospitals, Rue branded hospitals? What?
Yeah,
Fill me in there.
they are not Rube branded hospitals, so we're still working with all of our hospital partners. It's just when we like to pair up with their expansion strategy, and then basically help them to get staffed in sort of those early days. And in some cases, we are literally staffing with that sort of temp to hire in mind model. In other cases, we're literally just helping them open up hospitals as they finish up their own internal hiring processes.
So we think about, there's obviously, stemming back to the pandemic, there has been a shortage of vets, and that
Yes.
shortage is just projected to grow. I think the last study we saw, and I think still the benchmark is that Mars study that said we're going to have a shortage of like 31,000 vets by 2030. We're
Right.
5 years away. So more people getting pets, fewer people going to vet school. I guess it raises the question, we see more and more hospitals opening. We see, we've had Modern Animal on the show. They're growing like
Yeah.
crazy. We did a feature with Chewy. They're doing Chewy Vet Care. They've got 8 clinics open, plans to open more. Who are the big clients that you are working with? And where are you finding the vets in this time of shortage? How are you
Yeah.
guys, you know, accessing this talent?
Totally. So, in terms of who our clients are, it's basically every major sort of chain, I guess that you could consider them. All the big players are definitely clients of ours, and then we also have a really great business line for small independent clinics. We kind of divide our business in two different areas. So we have our enterprise clients, which are probably exactly who you're thinking about. And then we also have our
NCA,
independent.
Banfield,
Yeah,
Ethos.
exactly. So,
Yeah, sure.
and then you have what we would consider to be indies, which are basically three practices or smaller. And so that's kind of who our customer base is. And you're right, they are still expanding. There's also kind of like some new models out there. You mentioned Modern Animal, of course, like Bond Vet, et cetera, which have like deep technology integration for their clients. And so those are definitely really expanding, especially with millennial and Gen Z people kind of entering the workplace and starting to pay for their pets. So we're seeing a lot of expansion there. And then we're also seeing, the trend. You kind of asked a little bit earlier about trends that you're seeing. We're seeing a lot of, I would describe it as like sort of right sizing of organizations that maybe expanded a little bit too much during those pandemic years. So they're working on kind of figuring out like which clinics are profitable that they've opened. So there's some closures, there's some people moving around, meaning like vets and techs are moving from a clinic that's
Right.
been closed to another one. So we've been working with our partners on kind of figuring out their strategies with that. And a lot of that is, I'm sure as you can imagine, focused on productivity. So how, basically like how many pets the vet or the vet tech can see during the course of a shift. And that varies tremendously depending on the model of that particular business. So we've got some that are wellness, which want to see, 15, 20 appointments per shift. And then you've got some that might be focused on specialty surgeries, which are only doing like, one or two a day, just totally varies. So we have that capacity to figure out what that particular clinic needs to work with them to get their not only their hospitals in great shape, but of course, great care for their pets.
That makes sense. How, like, of the vets that you're working with, how many of them are, picking up extra shifts on Rue versus ones that are kind of using Rue as their full-time employment versus, using it as a job transition tool? Do you have that breakdown?
Totally. Yeah, we do have rough breakdowns of that. I would say that, you could probably use the 80/20 rule. We have roughly probably 20% of the vets on our platform are using it quote unquote full time. So they are I would say working anywhere, from 6 shifts up per month. But the vast majority of people on our platform are using it in sort of a more moonlighter capacity. So 1 to 2 shifts a month, or again, the most common person to use our platform is like a busy mom. And so they're interested in keeping their veterinary license active, but they're, running the kids here, there, and everywhere. And so they kind of plug in where they can. So they may, for example, like, during the summer, they may come in kind of hot while their kids are at camp and activities and things like that. Whereas during the school year, a little bit harder for them because they have to manage those challenging schedules. So that's kind of the breakdown. And then I'd also say a lot of our we do have questions for our users as they join the platform and like, hey, what's your intention of using Rue? Is it, to find a new permanent home? Is it to just pick up extra shifts for extra cash, or is it to do it in more full-time capacity? And I think what's really interesting is we've found through our placements product that people will mark one thing. So they'll say, oh, hey, I'm actually just interested in doing shifts for cash, or I would like to work this full time, but then it doesn't necessarily match what they actually do. And so, what I think is interesting about that is just like life, right? People figure it out as they go. And so, we actually make a lot of placements, so full time kind of connections. Of people who have marked that they're absolutely not interested in full-time work, but then they find that hospital where they have that like perfect match, and their tune changes a bit. So a little bit hard to say on that one because again, like the data indicates that what people maybe sign up for isn't sort of how they land.
Sense. I mean, when you think about it, when you know, um, you may find a hospital that you absolutely love working for, and only intended on doing some relief shifts there, but you're like, this is a perfect fit.
Yeah, or your financial situation might change, or like maybe you were working full time and the clinic closed, and now you're looking for more than just kind of filling in on the side, so to speak. So, the great thing about Rue is I think, no matter the ebb and flow of one's life, we can kind of be there with you. No matter how much you'd like to work or how little you'd like to work. That's, and all of those sort of pieces of the puzzle end up with great fill rates for our clients, right? So every single person, no matter how they act on the platform, is really critical to reworking well.
Yeah. And I love what you said, about, providing that option for people to keep their license active, right? It's, one of the things with burnout, I think, is that feeling of I'm trapped in this and I can't get out, right? I own this practice. I don't have anybody to help me. Um, I and then all of a sudden there's a relief shift, or there's somebody, who feels like they just couldn't, keep working full time as a vet, but they want to keep their license active and, maybe take a step back and reassess, add some balance to their life. We see it with the televet solutions too. It gives vets that chance to put those skills that they went to school for and paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to acquire to use without, continuing that drain, that's causing a lot of the attrition in the profession. So I think it's super great what you guys are doing. Jeff, I know you also talked a little bit about, the fact that you guys are this year seeing, kind of some pullback in the total number of vet visits. That,
Yeah.
from the pet parent side and the consumer side of things, vet visits are down this year. Can you
Yep.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we're seeing some of our larger partners see anywhere from probably I'd say like we've heard like anywhere from like 10 to 20% decreases in their walk-in activity, which is obviously very, very sizable. Another interesting trend we've seen, which we discussed when we were chatting on the phone the other day, was that independent clinics are actually seeing increases in volume. And I think that's just because they're sort of more of a bespoke model, right? So highly custom. And I think what's happening there is there's a little uncertainty in the economy, and so I think the type of person who goes to a clinic that has like a wellness plan associated with it, probably drawing back a little bit, being a little bit more conservative with their money, and just kind of seeing kind of what shakes out. And then you have people who just probably have a higher net worth that are not as concerned about that. And so that's why we're seeing the growth in those private practices, and then also those technology-enabled practices. People really are starting to love those. But yeah, overall, kind of like mixed sentiments across the board, but definitely some bigger pattern changes with our biggest enterprise clients for sure.
It's interesting because, you think about people holding back on going to the vet. And we've talked about this a lot on the show with preventive diagnostics and responsible pet ownership. Like it, that's sort of the hallmark of those bad outcomes that no one really wants to see,
Totally.
when you stop going to the vet. And just like we go for our annual physical, if you're staying on top of things, if you're getting blood work done regularly, if you're checking in with your doctor, in the same way, you got to check in with your vet. You
Totally.
can't, um, and you see the statistics out there.
Yeah.
60% of cats have never even been to the vet. 40 to 50% of pet parents don't take their pet to the vet annually. And then by the time they get there, that's where you hear these stories of, oh, if
Yeah.
we'd seen this dog 3 years ago, this would be very
Totally
treatable.
caught.
But
Yep.
now we're
Yep.
looking at, and so, I totally hear, there's much larger issues here at play. Uh, the
Totally.
cost of vet care continues to, I think it's what, two or three times the rate of inflation.
Yes.
Um,
It's
the
not
cost of
inexpensive.
vet
Yeah.
care is going up. So certainly it's expensive. Um, Obviously there's a lot of economic uncertainty right now, and I totally get where people look at the idea of a wellness plan or regular vet visits maybe being more expendable, but the people and the family members who pay for that in the long run are your pets. And, I think it's really, interesting that we have 90% of people in this country that would call their pet a family member, but 40 to 50% that don't take that family member to the doctor annually. Um, I
Yep.
don't think there's 40 to 50% of parents that wouldn't take their kid for their annual physical or their
Yeah.
regular checkups or their vaccines or anything like that.
Yeah.
Um,
There's
and
definitely
it,
there's
it's
pieces of
interesting.
this puzzle, Peter, I think too, is that, pets don't speak, right, in the same way that obviously a 4-year-old would if something hurt. But I will say that like the most important thing I think you could do as a responsible pet owner is get insurance. Or a wellness plan. That's another really affordable way. There are some, the Banfield model is a phenomenal example of like very, very affordable wellness plans to keep your pet in check. And the other thing too is dental. So many problems begin in the mouth, and obviously the teeth are dangerously close to your brain. And so really, really important to get those dentals, regularly, or at least figure out a way to care for your dog or cat's teeth. But yeah, I think you're correct. A lot of people don't think of pet care in the same way they think of human health care. There's so many affordable options out there for pet insurance, and as long as you do it when that animal joins your family, when that pet first joins your family, it really is affordable. And they pretty much cover most. I mean, there's obviously different levels you can get, but most preventative care is included in that. And so that's really, really important because you detect things early and can obviously get them treated much earlier and therefore much less expensive in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about this. Pet insurance was one of the big reasons I founded this show because, we have 4% adoption of pet insurance nationally here in the
Tiny.
US. And um, to me, I know there's a lot of misconceptions about it out there, and we've talked about it on the show. We've had Odie on. We've done
Mhm.
features with other pet insurers. We've had Pet Insurance Review. Um, the thing is that there's so many misconceptions. People don't understand a lot of the time that pet insurance doesn't cover pre-existing conditions.
Yes.
Um, and that leads to problems when people go to get pet insurance later in life and find that the condition they're trying to buy pet insurance for isn't covered because the pet's already been treated for it. So like you said, either when you get them as a puppy or when you adopt them and they don't have a veterinary record, that's the time to get it, not later. People have to recognize and understand that under the eyes of the law, pets are considered property. 90% of us may call them family members, but the law views them as property. So they're insured in the same way your car or your home would be. It's underwritten as a P&C insurance policy. Um, and just like you can't go out and get insurance for your car after you crash it, you can't go out and get
Right.
pet insurance for your dog after it gets sick. It,
Yep.
no one would make money. And it's a great tool to have in your toolkit. You can add a wellness plan to it, and that will cover, things like vaccines and other preventatives. But at the very least, if you have a pet insurance plan, you're never going to be in a situation where you're making a financial decision about your pet's health. Even with the escalating costs of veterinary care, you will know maximum out of pocket per year that I could spend on my pet is X. And
Mhm.
I'm going to kind of transition into our big announcement because we have 500,000 pets that fall victim to economic euthanasia every year. So that is 500,000 dogs, cats that are put down, um, not because it's the compassionate thing to do, not because they're elderly or because they have some untreatable condition that's just going to get worse, but are put down because they have a treatable condition that their family cannot afford to pay for.
Yep.
And when you look at the delta of 4% pet insurance adoption, 40 to 50% of people not taking their pet to the vet, this is how we get into these situations is people are scared of going to the vet and they're putting off going to the vet because of the escalating cost of care. And I look at it and, you know, the concept of economic euthanasia touches on so many things that are core and integral to, you know, the causes that we champion on this show. I mean, and I
Yeah.
think you could speak more than anything else to the issue of veterinary burnout. I mean, we don't have vets going to school and spending hundreds of thousands, you know, for several years and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and incurring debt to get their vet degrees and maintain their vet licenses so that they can put down animals that they would
Right.
otherwise treat. And they're in a really hard position because, you know, maybe if you own your own practice, you can decide to donate your time and, you know, you'll help an animal and a family who can't afford to pay for it. But if you're in
Yeah.
corporate practice, that's
Yeah. There's
not your
no
call,
way.
and you get in a lot of trouble for doing things like that. So
Totally.
you know that instinct, that compassion, that caring nature that so many vets have is suppressed and taken away, and it's a huge part of veterinary burnout. And you know, you and I have talked about it. I mean, vets have a suicide rate that is 2.7 times the national average. It means as a veterinarian, you're almost 3 times more likely to commit suicide than anybody else in the population. Um,
Yep. That's why
and
our mission is to sort of put the power back in the hands of veterinarians, right? So that they can sort of determine where and when they're working, and really have as much flexibility in their scheduling as possible. But you're right, they're faced with those conundrums on a daily basis where they'll be in a practice and somebody comes in that unfortunately doesn't have pet insurance, and you know, they even just a dental, you know, it's 6 to probably $900 depending on where you live, just for the anesthesia, right? So that means that the extractions, et cetera, are going to be way more expensive. So yeah, it's really, really important to insure your pet to prevent the situation where you get to the vet and you have to shell out thousands and thousands of dollars for something that was unexpected.
so what I've realized is that, you know, there's no perfect solution, right? Because there's millions, you know, there's what 65 million dogs in this country.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Uh, you know, I think similar, maybe a slightly smaller number, maybe it's 90 million dogs and 65 million cats. But you know, there's pet owning households make up close, you know, to a 2/3 of this country. I think 65 to 70% of households have a pet. Um, and a lot of them are going to be older. And with 4% pet insurance adoption, we're not going to solve this problem overnight. But at the same time, you know, we don't want families to be
Yeah,
ripped apart because, you know, 90% of people do regard pets as a member of their family, even if
totally.
there is sort of a delta
That,
between how you treat your pet and how you would treat a human family member.
right. It's about
Um,
half the people in the US. It's a lot, right? A lot, half the families in the US have pets. So
yeah, yeah, it's a ton. And so, you know, when we look at, you know, this idea of economic euthanasia and, you know, 500,000 pets, which, you know, it's a small number in the grand scheme of things when we're looking, you know, it's less than, you know, 1-2%.
yeah.
But it's still a lot. It's a significant total number. So I'm announcing today that we are starting the Petworking Angel Fund. And the Petworking Angel Fund is going to be a resource. We're going to partner with shelters and vets who will identify cases where there is a treatable medical condition that would otherwise require economic euthanasia. Um, and we will have that fund available so that vets don't have to recommend economic euthanasia because of finances. They don't have to put down an animal that they could otherwise treat were it not for lack of finances. And it will work to keep families together longer. We're going to be kicking off and starting the fund with a charity golf tournament this fall. It's going to be held at Vermont National Country Club in Burlington, Vermont, where Maya Strategy has just relocated its headquarters to as of June 3rd. We opened our office. We're down on the waterfront in Burlington, right on Lake Champlain. And this fall on September 22nd at Vermont National Country Club, we're going to have the first annual Petworking Angel Fund Open. I'm saying tee off to save lives. No secret, I'm a big golfer. This marries a couple of my passions, but I think it'll be a great way to get people together, get folks out on the course. We're going to have sponsorships, and all of the proceeds are going to go to establishing the Angel Fund, and hopefully it will grow from there. But we will have that base from the tournament that will be available to vets and shelters that we partner with, so that they do not have to consider economic euthanasia. And hopefully we can help save some lives there. Jeff, I know you said Rue is going to be on board and sponsoring a hole, so thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations.
Yeah,
and the launch. We're excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be really good, and I'm hopefully, I know you're a golfer as well. We were just talking about your club fitting, so hopefully we can get you out and on the course, and we'll have some Rue signage up on the holes. But if folks are interested in playing or sponsoring, we're going to have our website is up and live, and we're about ready to start accepting payments for sponsorships and registrations. Lots of different sponsorship options available. And, if you get in on the ground floor like Rue, we're going to have lots of time to promote your brand and let everyone know the good charitable work you're doing in supporting this cause. Because I think, Jeff, you can speak to the fact that, this does really touch every aspect of the pet care and animal health industry, from veterinary burnout to pet insurance to responsible pet ownership. It all comes back to, if you have pet insurance, you're not going to have to consider economic euthanasia. If you're taking your pet to the vet regularly, if you're getting your preventatives, you're not going to wind up in a situation where you have a condition that's so expensive to treat that you're facing this. And, on the flip side of it, it makes life better for the veterinarians that we ask to take care of our pets. And, removes a significant factor that contributes to the crisis of veterinary burnout that we're seeing in this country.
Agreed. Yeah, I totally agree. It sort of hits that full spectrum. For Rue, it's near and dear to our hearts, because it's so stressful for vets to have to talk to pet parents about these super challenging decisions and financial decisions, and it does lead to burnout. Imagine having to present multiple times per day that your loved one has cancer, or needs a really expensive dental extraction, etc. It just leads to that burnout. And so anything that we can do to help with that certainly meets our mission, and we're thrilled to be partnered with you.
I mean, and when cancer is obviously the extreme example, but even a foreign body ingestion,
Totally.
that swallows something that it shouldn't. You're probably looking at $3,000 or $4,000.
We've got an employee who was posting the other day in our Slack that their dog ingested a chicken bone, and this is someone who's really connected in the industry, etc. And it's still at cost was $2,500 to get that bone out of there. So I mean, not everybody, of course, has that luxury of being connected to the industry like that. So yeah, these are some really expensive situations that people face.
Even $2,500 at cost. I mean, what's the statistic? 70% of households in the US couldn't afford an unexpected $400 expense.
Yeah. At the insurance.
We're not. Yeah, that's why you need the insurance. That's why you need the wellness plan. I just look at it. I cannot imagine having to make a decision about your pet's life due to finances. And I think it must be one of the most heart-wrenching decisions that any family would have to make. And you can only imagine for the vet, how you could save that animal, and the barrier to it is that the funds aren't there. So this is a cause, it like I said, it really addresses so many of the core issues in the industry that we've tried to identify and champion and highlight here on Petworking. And I'm really excited to, have a shot to actually make a difference beyond just
Yeah.
talking about it here. Certainly calling attention to it is one thing. Being able to take action is another. So I'm really excited about this. I'm super psyched that you guys are on board and are partnering, and hopefully we'll get to hit a few balls on the links, and I can see those new clubs you just got.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I won't embarrass my company or your charity tournament, but I'm ready to use them.
Good. Well, I will say it's September 22nd. It's right at the start of foliage season here in Vermont. That's a Monday. So, I'm telling people come the weekend before, check out the foliage, play some golf for a great cause on Monday. And, we're hoping to get a great turnout. And like I said, if there's interest in sponsoring, like Jeff and Rue have stepped up to do, please feel free to reach out. And we're really looking forward to making a difference uh, all aspects of pet care and animal health, preventing
Yes.
veterinary burnout, preventing economic euthanasia, and promoting more responsible pet ownership. Because we don't want to set this as the precedent that there's always going to be an angel fund, but
Right.
the more we can make people aware of the consequences of not having pet insurance and not taking your pet to the vet regularly, the fewer times we're going to put vets in this situation, and then we'll have the angel fund as a stopgap for those situations that are unavoidable.
Agreed. Yeah. We're very excited to participate and congratulations on getting it launched. And we hope to hear or hope to see lots of the listeners here that participate as well.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Jeff, and congratulations to you guys with Brew. I mean, we didn't even touch on Brew Code and the whole adjacency that you guys have
Yes.
going on there, but just the growth within the traditional Brew platform over the last 2 years is amazing. And again, I think it's so great what you guys do in terms of providing those relief shifts, providing alternative
Yeah.
employment options for the veterinary community. We also didn't talk about all the work you guys are doing in your tech platform, and the fact that you not only provide relief vet shifts but vet tech shifts as well. And that's every bit as important, because those folks are the glue that holds practices together. um,
Yeah. If I may make one plug, it's that we are always looking for incredible veterinary talent to join the platform. And then we're actually also hiring quite a bit at our headquarters to accommodate our growth. So if you're interested in working with us, please visit Vet. We'd love to talk to you.
yeah, check it out. Anybody in the I don't know if you can share some of the roles you're looking to hire for. Obviously, vets and vet techs.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
guys know
that's
who
the
you
bread
are,
and
but
butter, of course.
I don't. Are you looking for marketing roles? Are you looking for BD sales?
Yeah, so we're looking for some engineering roles. We're looking for finance roles, kind of all over the map in finance there. We're also looking for people to join our account management team, our enterprise account management team. So pretty much all of the quote unquote sales roles are always kind of looking to hire the right team there. But yeah, if you visit Vet and scroll down to the bottom of our site, there'll be a careers tab there and or link, excuse me. And yeah, I think we probably have 15 or so open roles right now. So we're definitely trying to bring lots of people to our HQ, which is remote. So you can be anywhere.
That was my next question. I know you're out in Salt Lake City, but which I
Yeah.
love. I love skiing, but with remote,
Yeah,
you
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 can
can
you can really be
choose the best of all
anywhere.
worlds.
We
Um,
uh we do have some sort of our headquarters is in the Bay Area, so right in Embarcadero Center in San Francisco, in a beautiful new office. So we have a preference for that area, but you can literally be anywhere in the United States. We'd love to talk to you.
and you guys they're growing like crazy. They're doing great work, and they're sponsoring the Petworking Angel Fund Open. So I can't speak highly enough. If you're looking for an opportunity in an emerging marketplace that Rue is really helping to define, definitely check them out, and you get to work with Jeff. So there's and Danny's a
Yeah,
great guy too.
he
Um,
is.
so yeah, Jeff, thank you guys for all your
Thank
support,
you.
and congrats on all the great work you're doing. And yeah, hope we will see you in person this fall
Yes,
at
we'll
the
see you
Angel Fund
soon.
Open.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care, everyone. This is Peter Kenseth on behalf of Jeffrey Bishop Hill with Brew. This is Peter Kenseth with Petworking signing off. Take care, everyone.